I've been in dogs since 1991. We breed dogs that we want to train. I was out here in western Nebraska riding Harleys and training dogs. I don't sugarcoat anything, and if you don't like it, tough.
Welcome to the Flatlander Kennels podcast with Chris Jobman. Today we've got a Q&A session. We're going to try to get caught up with all of the questions that we've gotten over on the podcast group. So if you want your question answers, that's a lot of what we do and a lot of different topics. Go over there to the Flatlander Kennels podcast group, sign up, talk with everyone, ask your questions there. So today's just going to be a Q&A. How's it going, Chris?
Hi, how are you, bud?
I'm doing great. We've got some really interesting questions here today. I'm looking forward to getting to.
Yeah, let's get to them. I got to cook some steaks.
All right, man. The way you guys cook out there, man. Now, my wife, don't get me wrong, my wife's a great cook, but you guys are just like meat and potato people. It's like steaks, chicken, steaks.
we were actually gonna have salmon tonight, which sounded good. Then I opened up the fridge and saw she bought bone-in ribeyes. I'm like, we're having steak. So,
do you guys like buy half cows or cows, or
my parents have cows, so we always get a beef a year. But these are actually store bought. We're running out of them, but we don't do a ton of potatoes. So when you guys are here for the tests, our eating is much different than it is when there's just her and I. Her and I, we try to eat not really low carb, but we eat a little bit healthier than that. Mm-hmm. So. But we eat a lot of steak and chicken and that sort of thing.
Well, you guys know how to cook food, that's for sure.
Yeah, we try to anyway.
All right, let's jump into it. This start off with Stormy Crook. How do you? I don't have my glasses on. How do you correct popping on water
blinds? Well, hopefully, Stormy, your dog's been through all the proper steps. Swim by, water force, swim by. De-cheat. Hopefully you've been through all pattern blinds in the water. Hopefully you've been through all the steps. If you haven't been through force to pile, that sort of thing, you don't have a tool to fix that. But let's just say you've been through force to pile, water force, all those things. If they're popping in the water, I would just don't blow if they pop, don't blow the whistle because that's what they want. But maybe if they pop, I would give them a collar correction and just give a verbal back. I honestly, I probably wouldn't even raise my arm or something. I would just because that's what they're looking for. I would just give them a verbal back and let them shoot off wherever they shoot off, and then you stop them on your own terms and handle them. That's the ease. That's probably the thing I would probably do. Is just like I said, a collar correction, verbal back, get them going again. If you have not been through water force, swim by, force to pile, you need to do that before you do anything.
And just in case anyone doesn't know, popping would be stopping. Popping is acting like you blew the whistle when you didn't.
They're looking for direction. They've lost their confidence. They're looking for direction. If, like I said, pattern blind, if you've not been through all the previous steps, you need to do those before you start nicking your dog in the water to get them going again.
Same thing on land, handling it the same way?
Same thing on land, yeah, same thing on land. And here's another thing, too, about the popping is maybe the popping is caused by you where you've got a senior to season level dog who isn't an advanced dog, and you're trying to dictate every ounce of where that dog goes, so you're overhandling. You're like, tweet, 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 tweet. You're not letting that dog build any kind of momentum at all because you're trying to hold that dog perfectly online. Hey, they don't have to be perfectly online at that point in time. If you're running, let's say the blind's at 12 o'clock and your dog is popping a little bit and that dog is veering off between 1:30 and 2, let them go. As long as they're not stopping and popping, let them get offline a little bit, and then at the end of the blind, feather them over and pick up the bird because, listen, you're training. You're not running a hunt test. So if your dog is struggling with momentum, as long as they're not offline a whole real far, let them go. Just let them go. Let them get their feet underneath of them. Let them run or let them swim. Because if you're overhandling, that's going to cause popping.
Yeah, and that you gave me that same advice. I was having a problem with Georgie not running hard and strong, and you gave me that advice. You said, well, sometimes if she's going the wrong way, just let her go. Let her get confidence of just, and once that corrected that issue with her a great deal really fast.
Yeah, if you don't let them build their own confidence and you're trying to dictate every step they take, you're not going to have a confident dog at all, because every time you blow a whistle, whether you're on land or water, that's a correction. In their mind, especially at a young dog's age, when you blow that whistle, they're like, oh man, I wasn't doing it right. Now what do you want? Now, when they get a little bit older and you blow the whistle, like, okay, now where do you want me to go? And they're fine with it. But when they're young, every time you blow the whistle, in their mind, that's a correction.
This shows some of the nuances of the training, which we talked about on the last episode a little bit about know your dog, because in one way it's like hold a high standard, and your dog's running off completely the wrong angle. It's like, no, let him go. So as someone who doesn't have a lot of training, sometimes it's like, well, you said do this, but now you do that. But it's tied into you and your dog.
It's dog dependent.
Right.
And the level you're at.
Yeah. All right, this is Ryan Bixby, and I'm going to set this up a little bit in case people don't know as we go, in case there's amateurs that don't have much hunt test experience. When training an HRCH dog for masters, so that's moving from HRC over to AKC, as an amateur, what is the best way to incorporate a flyer? In AKC, there's a flyer where they throw up a live duck and shoot it, which in HRC,
they shoot out in the field. Yep.
Right. In a multiple setup, 1-for-1s, single. If it's within a full setup, do you suggest the flyer being a memory or go bird? So when training for the flyer, is it best to use multiple setup, 1-for-1 as a single? Within a full setup, do you suggest the flyer being a memory or go bird?
Well, they can and will do throw flyers in finished HRC finish test. And if it was up to Dave Marsteller, we'd have a flyer in every finish test in the history of the world. But it's not up to him.
HRC throws flyers sometimes?
They can throw flyers. Yep, okay. And Dave Marsteller would love to see a flyer in every finish test, but you know what? He doesn't get to make the rules, so we don't have them all the time. So, anyway, well, when incorporating a flyer, I don't like flyers as go birds in training. And the reason for that is because a lot of these master tests will have an out of order flyer. And what I mean by that is the first mark will come out, the second mark, the first mark will come out, it'll be a dead bird. Second mark will come out, it'll be a flyer. Third mark will come out, it'll be a dead bird, and that's your go bird. I don't like to use them as go birds because you don't want, they're extremely excitable. The dogs love them. They get excited. So when they see the flyer, if you just let them get the flyer all the time as a go bird, then they see that flyer and they get so amped up they end up breaking. Go bird. Yeah. They just leave. I like to use them as maybe even a walk-up bird where it's a really close bird. So it's more of a control bird. It's a breaking bird. So the first mark out will be at 30 yards, 40 yards. It'll be a flyer. And then move through your setup on that. I don't like them as singles. If you throw them as singles, I would suggest throw the flyer out as a single, shoot it, know them off of it, run a behind-the-gun land blind, go get a blind, they come back and go get it as a memory bird. I don't like them as go birds. I don't like them as singles. I like him as a control bird for staying as close to the line. And I like him for a long middle, like a long punch bird, because a flyer, especially if you shoot a bunch of flyers, they've got a really big hunt area and there's a lot of feathers out there and there's lots that keeps those dogs hunting, especially dogs that break down in a popping on a mark because they lose their confidence. Flyers are really good to keep their confidence because there's a lot of scent out there. So I like them as a memory bird so the dogs get out there and they've got to hunt for those birds. And it actually, the longer a dog hunts in the area and is hunting, the longer the dog hunts and then eventually finds it on their own, the more confidence and they get in their own hunting skills, if that makes sense. Because they were successful. They gave a ton of effort. They dug it out. They tried. They stayed after it. And then they found the bird. That actually helps a dog learn and gain confidence. A dog that runs out there and just puts their face on the bird every single time, well, when they don't put their face on the bird, then they start getting nervous about where it went, and they lose their confidence. The flyers teach a dog to hunt, and then the longer they hunt and are successful, they actually get better at it.
All right, good stuff. Next one, Jeff Meyer. When preparing for the big events, Grand and MN, do you alter the training for the dogs to get them to peak at those events? Tougher marks and blinds, tightening the obedience screws. When does it start and then taper?
It never tapers, really. But I will tell you, we ran so many tests the last few months, and I hurt Jeff's feelings. I'm sorry, Jeff. I hurt your feelings. Like on the last time I answered your questions, I saw it on Facebook and really don't care. But I know Jeff real well, but I like to give him crap. But anyway, Snowflake. So we go and we keep that same standard for all these dogs all year long. Now, when you start running tests, obviously those standards will deteriorate because you're trying to hold them together. Today, the Master National starts first in September 21st, I think, or whatever it is. So today, all those dogs that ran all those tests, we really started working on back to the fundamentals and back to basics. Heeling to the line really good, sitting quietly and properly, staying steady, watching the bird to the ground. We ran singles off of multiple guns with 2 blinds, land blind and water blind. And we just went back to basics. Now, we keep our standard extremely high. When I ask for a cast, I ask for an angle, I better get that angle, or there's probably going to be a correction depending on the dog. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to ramp up your standard 2 weeks before the event. Because now that dog could be a little bit of mind games. What you want to do is start slowly ramp it up, keep that really high standard all the way into the event. Now, maybe your marks are become more therapy type marks, where they're not so many memory birds and multiples, or more singles, tougher singles, cheaty singles, that sort of thing. But your blind obedience and your obedience and your blind work and all your control work is a really high standard all the time. You back off on the mental stress where the marks are maybe singles, like I said, just go get the bird and come back. But your standard of your obedience and your blinds stay at a really high standard all the way into the event, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So would you say that your normal training setups, marks and blinds, are typically a little more difficult than what you would see at a master test?
Not necessarily. Now, there are some days, absolutely. They're extremely difficult. But those setups, a lot of times, aren't in a multiple. They're in singles.
Right.
And yeah, they're just in singles. I wouldn't throw them as a multiple. But what you don't want to do, and I've seen this happen to a lot of people, especially amateurs that run to the Grand or the National, they start overtraining 3 weeks before the event or 2 weeks before the event, and their dog just mentally melts to the ground. And if that dog isn't used to being at that standard, and now all of a sudden you're going to cram in what you should have been doing 6 months prior.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to get dogs to peak. Trying to get a whole truck full of dogs to peak is extremely difficult. But like I said, you just amp it up and you just kind of keep going like that. And then right before the event, a week or two before the event, I start backing off on the difficulty maybe of the marks and stuff and try to get their marking confidence really, really high going into the event.
All right. Next one, Stephen Freimeyer. What is something that you have added to your kennel facility that has made means of operation easier that you wish you had earlier? Is there any type of tech water or field type that you have added to your property or training schedule that you feel have helped your dogs compete at the national level more than others? Checkerboard field, running water ponds, stump tree ponds, etc.
We have all those things, Steve. We added Grant Hatch. We added him to the mix. That makes life easier. Actually, no, never mind. Sorry, Grant, it doesn't. But we have all those things. We have running water. We have ponds with trees in it. We have stumps. We've got checkerboards. We've got mowed strips. We have all of those things. So that all helps prepare for a national. We've got lots and lots of tech water here. That all helps us prepare for a national. So one thing we added a few years ago, we call it the timber pond, and it's a 18 inches, 2 feet of water at the most. And Elliot saw it last time you were here. It's got trees all over it. We got stumps in it. We got telephone poles. We try to make our own flooded timber, so to speak, without being too busy. But that's helped us when we go down south and run in the trees. But my whole place is stripped up, mowed up. It's a mess. It's a jungle of mowed maize strips. So that I think if you could pick one thing to do besides having tech water, that sort of thing, it would be mowing strips in your fields could teach a dog to run straight through mode strips. I really do. And another thing is some places we have our East field is as flat as it gets. And unless you've ran in a really super flat field, it's harder to do than you think. If you come from a hill or even a little bit of an incline coming down, that's a different look. 175-yard mark on a flat field looks completely different if you run not running downhill. So if you're going to a national event that you know is going to have flat fields, I would try to find as flat a field as you can get and run marks on that, because the depth perception on a flat field is much different than if you're running down a hill.
Will dogs tend to run shorter or longer?
Yes, shorter, because they just don't understand the depth perception yet.
What about from an organization standpoint? I know with as many dogs as you have, and you're kind of well known for your organization, when you started 20 plus years ago, is there anything just on an organization basis that you do now that you didn't do at the beginning that you've learned over time?
Like what do you mean as organization?
Well, your kennel runs like a fine oiled machine. I see that I remember seeing whiteboards where you have things written down. I mean, there's an organization to everything that goes on at your kennel. And I didn't know if that is something you had to learn over time through trial and error, maybe as simple as, keeping track of what dog has been or what dog's been fed.
The dogs that Dan is training, he does all the obedience, collar conditioning, force fetching, or most of it anyway. And then all of our pile work and yard work and 300 casting and force to pile. And then Andrew will help as well. Those dogs going through that basics and transition stage are all on a whiteboard. So I can walk out there and say, hey, what's Georgie doing? I can walk out there, hey, Georgie's at 300 casting. Mm-hmm. Or, hey, Georgie's in, swim by. They're all on a board. So we know where they're coming through the system. And Andrew and Dan do a really good job of talking to each other and moving through the system. Once they get to me and get on my trailer, they're off the board. They're just in my head, and I know what they need because they're all the advanced dogs, and they'll just go out with me, and I take over all of that, what they need to progress and be, more advanced. But when they're coming through, like I said, through the system of basics and transition, they're all on a board, and they're coming through the flow chart. And once they get done with 300 casting, they go to force to pile. Their name goes there. Once they force to pile, they go to sit to pile. Their name just moves through the board. And we now have clients who say, hey, listening to this podcast, I talked to two of them today. We're like, hey, where's my dog on the flow chart? So now they're learning the flow chart, and they'll take pictures of the flow chart, and they'll be, okay, where am I at now? Am I in swim by yet? Well, no, we're in water T. Okay, swim by is next. So they know exactly where they're at on it. It's pretty cool, really.
Yeah, I bet that's really fun for them to track it.
It is.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, this is Joe Haynes. The other day we were running a down the shore blind, probably 115 yards. The blind was on the far shore, but the line was to where the dog needed to shoot a gap to the left of an island to take a good line. So the question is, if a dog did a good job not beaching all the way to the island and then wanted to go to the right around the island on the big water side instead of shooting the water gap to the left of it, she kept fighting the angle back because she's gotten in trouble for beaching early, but the gap was more towards the bank than the right of the island, the big water side. She wasn't outright refusing, but would make the turn left and then start bearing to the right. I know some say don't nick in the water, but after 3 attempts, I nicked and gave a step and angle left. She finally made the gap. So I guess my question is, what would you have done? Was the nick okay, or should I have done something different? And by the way, going over the island was not an option. It was full of thick buckbrush.
Yeah, well, going over the island is not an option anyway because it wasn't online. That's not part of the blind. That wasn't online to the blind. Whoever says don't nick in the water, that they're wrong. As long as you collar condition your dog correctly and taught your dog what that is and in the water and out of the water, using a collar correction in the water is completely fine, because how are you going to correct your dog if you don't use the collar? It's totally fine. You just have to use restraint and not, melt them down out there. But so what the dog was trying to do, to me, it sounded like the dog was trying to be a good dog and make the right decision. So the dog, like I said earlier, if you make the bank hot, and this is what we talked about, Elliot, multiple times, is there's two ways of looking at training. When the dog gets out of the water, they blow them up on the land. And I said, If you do that, I can tell a dog that's had that happen in a heartbeat, because they won't even, as soon as you give them a nick, they won't even look at the bank. How we do it is that when the dog makes a decision, then we intervene and keep them on line. So that dog has probably had quite a bit of pressure on the land and was afraid to get out. Now, I always err on the side of caution here. If a dog isn't casting towards the land and the dog is, obviously worried about getting out, I do everything in my power not to give that dog a collar correction in the water for a cast refusal. Because some of those dogs that you give a collar correction in the water for a cast refusal towards the land makes it worse. And they think, oh my God, I'm in trouble. I'm going to take more water. I do everything in my power to use attrition on that dog to let that dog know that it's okay to get out. So it might have been a good idea for you to recall that dog, call it back, and then slowly angle it to get out. Maybe even call it back to the point where you angle it to the water, to the land, and you forget the line to the blind. Now this is where now you have to forget the line to the blind. So now maybe you say let's say that blind's at 100 yards, and you're starting having troubles at 75. Call that dog back to about 60 yards and let it get out. Let it get out at 60, 70 yards. Let it know, hey, it's okay to get up on the land. It's fine. But you better get back in when I ask you to. Because now here's the thing. Don't blow them up if they don't get back in, because then you've defeated the purpose of teaching them it's okay and it's comfortable to get out of the water. And then once get them out of the water, get them back in the water. Get them out of the water, get them back in the water, all the way down to that blind. Because obviously your dog is worried about getting out. So do you see what I'm trying to say, Elliot?
Yes.
You just make them comfortable with getting out. And I'm always, now it sounds like you did the right thing because the dog took the cast and finished the blind, but it sounds like your dog is a little bit out of balance to me, and you need to let that dog get out a little bit and be more comfortable in doing that, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah. That was an interesting question.
Yeah, I've seen it 100 times. I've seen it so many times like that. And that's usually a dog that's gotten out of the water and got lit up for getting out on the bank, and now it's scared to get out. And usually with those dogs, like I said, as soon as you give them a collar correction, they get farther away from the bank. So I try to use attrition as much as possible because they're trying to give you effort. They're just nervous. They're really nervous.
All right, we got 4 questions to go. This is Keith Spader. Noise on force to pile. How do you handle it? I'm sure I did something to confuse my dog, but now he barks 95% of the time on back casts.
Yeah. Hi, Keith. How are you? I haven't talked to you forever. But I watched the video he put on our Facebook page, and it just yips a little bit when you give him a back. Now, one thing I did notice about the dog, there wasn't any kind of determined momentum in that dog. What I mean by that is you may want to bump up the pressure a little bit, because when you gave that back, if you look on that video, you gave that dog back, it kind of lollygagged, like trotted and loped back there. It kind of lollygagged, and it looked off to its left, like, hey, okay, I'm gonna look to the left. Oh, by the way, I'll just go get the bumper, come back. There wasn't any real determination on that dog to get there and get back. If that makes sense. So
do you think that would you consider that lack of effort in a dog?
It might be on the dog's part. It might, but I don't know where it was panting a little bit so I don't know if it was tired or what. But to me, how that dog turned and kind of lollygagged back there, I don't like that. In force to pile, I don't like that, because in force to pile, it's called force to pile for a reason. There needs to be some determined momentum to get back there. Those ears maybe should be pinned back a little bit more, and there should be a little bit more urgency in that dog to get back to those bumpers. If that makes sense. And if you do that, it's going to do one or two things. It may make the dog bark a little bit more, or that dog may not bark at all, because maybe that bark is kind of a fun bark. Like he's having fun. He's just yipping the bark. That may take it all away. Like, I got to go. It may stop all that. So I don't know how to fix the barking. You're not going to get in trouble for it if you give a back cast, but I would be surprised to see if you added the pressure. It may not happen overnight, but add some pressure maybe shorten up the pile, maybe make it 10 yards or 5 yards even, and make it 5 yards and give that dog a little bit more urgency to get back to that pile. And I don't know if you watched that video or Elliot or not, but
I did
that
not
dog,
see it.
it went loping back there. And it might have been towards the end of the session where the dog was tired, but that dog to me needs more urgency to get back there.
This is a great time to add this. Thank you for including the video. It makes it so much easier
great
for Chris to know how to handle things. More information, add videos. The more information you can give Chris, the better he can assess the dog.
Yeah,
so
that was great. I thank you, Keith, for doing that. That was the first one we had. That was perfect because that showed me that dog's attitude and in that pile work. And like I said, I don't like the dog's lackadaisical attitude in that. I think amping it up, maybe shortening the pile up and maybe amping up a little bit more pressure to put some determination in that dog might help a little bit, be honest with you.
Yeah. All right. Greg Austin, 3-year-old master hunter, angle entry, initial line is great. Initial line is great. Problem is on reentry. He is starting to square the next bank and offline. Marking no issues, only on blinds. This is just popped up over the last couple of weeks.
Okay, well, I was talking about training or testing. But anyway, let's just say they're talking about training. If that's training, that's up to you. So if that dog is squaring the bank to get out on the blinds, don't let it square the bank, especially if it's running blind to treat. I mean, that's completely up to you. So the second you see that dog swim, let's say you're angling across the channel, and it gets in at a good angle, right? And he swims across channel, and all of a sudden takes a left to square up the bank. That's up to you. As soon as the second that dog turns his head, that's when you get involved. You stop, blow the whistle, give that dog a light correction probably, and the literal cast to angle out. If that dog gives you a cast refusal and goes towards the bank, stop it again, recall it, more correction, in the same cast to angle out. That angling out, that is 100% up to you to do, because the second, like I just said, the second you see that dog give into the bank, that's when you make the correction and you teach that dog to angle out. Giving into the bank right there is a form of a water cheat, and it's a form of lack of effort, because all they're trying to do is get out as quickly as possible, run down the bank. So the second you see that dog give into that factor, that's lack of effort, that's disobedience, and that's basically, it's kind of a cheat in a way. So you got to teach that dog, hey, you've got to carry your line the entire way. So,
all right. Brock Harrison, my dog has been through force fetch, 3-handed casting, and force to pile. His hold was very clean until the tail end of force to pile, where he started developing some bad mouthing habits. He will grab the center of the bumper and then flip his head up, roll the bumper until only the very end of it is in his mouth. I have tried using indirect pressure and revisiting fetch and hold, and have completely shut down any bumper retrieves. I've tried using 3-inch bumpers, and this somewhat helped the issue, but still not perfect. Any advice would be greatly appreciated.
I wouldn't worry about it. I'll be quite honest with you, Brock. I use all 3-inch bumpers when we do pile work and yard work, and there's just some dogs that kind of hold them on the end. I wouldn't worry about it, because here's the thing: you run a hunt test, you go hunting, you're not picking up bumpers. You're going to pick up birds. Now, if he starts dropping it and mouthing it, that's different. But if he's just rolling it around, I would maybe work on, use some collar correction, indirect pressure, like on here, and get him to come in quicker and come in to heel quicker. Maybe he'll forget about rolling that bumper around, put a little bit more urgency in the dog to come into heel. Like, hey, get in here. But honestly, I've seen this a bazillion times. Unless it gets really, really bad, I honestly wouldn't worry. I wouldn't put too much thought into it, because here's a problem. You start worrying about that, and you're going to be into force pile and all this stuff a lot longer than you should. I think it's probably going to work itself out down the road. I wouldn't worry about all that much.
I bet he's so happy to hear that advice. He's stressing about it. He's not even using bumpers anymore, and it's like, just don't worry about it.
I honestly, I've seen it a bazillion times, and I've tried to fix that with that perfect hole. There isn't a dog on my trailer that's got the perfect hole right in the middle of the bumper. This doesn't just, because let's just face it, the object is to go get the duck and bring it back, right?
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah. So unless they're like, don't have a good hold of the duck, or they're dropping it all the time, they're rolling it around, I honestly, I would maybe do some indirect pressure on here and heel and get him to come in quicker. Other than that, I wouldn't worry about it all that much. I really wouldn't. And I would love, you know what? Put a video of that up. I'd love to see that. We'd all like to see how bad he thinks it actually is.
It's fun to watch people working their dogs, guys. So even if you just have some success and you want to show that on the Facebook group, post it up.
100%. Like, hey, this actually worked for me. Look this, like a before and after video would be amazing.
Yeah. Or just showing off your dog. It's fun to show off our dogs.
For sure.
Vicky Rayburn, how do you train a dog to push through the scent of a duck thrown on a point in line to a blind? Dog does better on land, but gives in to the scent on water.
I don't teach a dog.
Push through the scent of a duck. So it's a duck in a water blind. If there's a point there that duck's been on, but it's on the way to the blind, the dog is giving into that scent.
Yeah. A lot of times, so that dog should have been hopefully he went through pattern blinds, because that's one of the pattern blinds we teach. The first thing we teach him to do is down the shore water blind. The second thing we teach him to do is swim past a point. The third thing we teach him to do is swim on and off a point, like she's doing with that duck. So that dog should be running pattern blinds, which just swim down, get on the point, get off the point. So they understand the concept of getting on the point, getting off the point. You got to be careful if that dog gets on the point, and let's just say it starts smelling the ground, blow the sit whistle, cast them out of it, right? If they don't cast into the water after that, then stop them. Now you're being disobedient. So now is the cast refusal for smelling the duck, or is the cast refusal for not wanting to get in the water? If the cast refusal is not either one, you just got to stop them, sit them down again, give them more of a color correction, and cast the dog in the water. How to work on that is go get a duck. Don't even throw a mark onto the bank. Don't throw a mark onto the point or anything. Go get a duck, roll it around that point, pull some feathers out, drag it around on that point, set that point all up, and now go run some blinds. And even maybe some pattern blinds that over through that scent area. But teach that dog to, hey, you need to listen to me to get out. Don't always put a mark in with it. You can just put a center point and teach that dog.
All right. Last question, Brent Andrus. I would like to hear Chris discuss the handling of the shotgun or fake gun. And does he recommend swapping from left hand to right hand with the gun as the marks are going off in training? And does he do it in the test?
I do a little bit of everything. So I'm a little bit ambidextrous. I shoot left hand. I'm left eye dominant.
So you shoot left-handed?
I shoot left-handed. Yep.
Ah, wow.
I'm left eye. I'm left eye dominant, but I'm right-handed. So for years and years and years, when I was a little kid, I shot right-handed, and I couldn't hit anything. And then somebody finally figured out I was left eye dominant. So I was about 12 or 13. I started shooting left-handed. And to this day, I had a judge one time. I'm going to do a little brag right here, but I had a judge one time. So I was sitting on a finish test, and say the mark was coming out at 3 o'clock, and I shot left-handed. Boom. Then the next mark comes out at noon or 12 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock. I was switched from my left to my right and shoot right, and then kick the dog off. And the judge got upset at me and said, "You don't do that hunting?" I said, "Yes, I do." I can't tell you how many times I've done this. So I'd be in my blind, ducks will come in, and they'll flare straight up, and I'll shoot left-handed. I'll shoot left-handed. I'll go boom, and then the other duck's flaring off way off to the left. It's hard for me to turn to shoot that way, so I've switched to my right hand and shot right-handed.
That's crazy.
I've done it. I've done it 50 times or more.
So when you do that, do you have? Because I'm left eye dominant, but I can't. I'm not ambidextrous.
Right
so I have to. That's what I do when I shoot all the time.
I have to close my left eye.
Yeah.
To shoot right hand, I have to close my left eye. I open with two, but I have done it. I can't tell you how many times I've done it. I've shot right hand, maybe left hand. I switch them back and forth because you can't turn, that way. But so yes,
that judge could have said that 10,000 times and been right.
What's that?
That judge could have said that to 10,000 other people about not switching the gun, and he would have been right.
I've done it. I mean, at least see me do it. I mean, everybody's seen me do it, And you may see me do it in this, but I learned the wrong way, so I can shoot both ways now. So, but yes, I do. I like to switch my shoulders because I'm comfortable with doing it. And I think in a finish test, or not necessarily an AKC test, because they have they have attention getters in the field. But an HRC test, a lot of times, if you sit stationary and you just switch your shoulders, that dog is more prone to sit stationary and not move as much. If you shoot like way right and you're starting to move, you're moving all your whole body around, then that dog is moving with you. If that dog can sit in the middle and you just pivot and switch your shoulders, that dog has a tendency not to move as much. It may it does help, but it's hard. Now be careful in HRC. If you're not comfortable with doing it, don't get a gun safety warning or a violation. But I actually do it in real hunting time. I've done it. I can't tell you how many times I've done it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I went through the time of trying to figure out what I was going to do with my left eye dominant issue, because shooting with two eyes open is obviously way better than one eye closed, but I just have to shoot one eye closed like you do on that side. I just can't.
Yeah, do you shoot left-handed?
No, I can't. I can barely even do anything with my left hand. I'm so right hand dominant. Right hand dominant.
I learned how to shoot left-handed. Eileen was shooting right-handed, and we figured out she was left eye dominant. She switched. She shoots left-handed now too.
Cool.
Yeah. So my oldest son, Cade, shoots left-handed because he's left eye dominant.
So tell people how to check their eye dominance if they don't know.
How I usually do it. I try to find something on the wall, and I keep both eyes open. I put my thumb up, and my thumb is kind of, you'll see like almost a mirror image, like a mirage of your thumb. And I put my thumb up, and if I close my right eye, my thumb stays on the target, on the object, then I'm left eye dominant.
Right.
And if I close my left eye and my gun will, the thumb will move way left. That means that's how you test it. So if your thumb stays there, that's your dominant eye.
Yeah. Whichever eye that you close when it's actually on the object with that eye is your dominant eye.
Yeah. And I shoot, like I said, I shoot left-handed, and I can keep both eyes open when I shoot left-handed. And I'm getting to the point now I can keep both eyes, almost keep both eyes open when I shoot right-handed. I just got to squint my left eye.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Good stuff. Good stuff.
It does work, especially like a layout blind. Like years ago, I had layout blinds. It works so slick.
Yeah, I bet it does. That's fantastic.
It really does.
Well, that's all the questions. Those were a good bunch of questions. So, guys, get back over to the Facebook group. Let's see some videos. Let's see some questions. Let's get them going. But I think that's all we've got today.
Perfect. Thanks, guys, for listening. Keep them coming. See everybody at the line. Take that aim.
Gotta strike